Matt Landau from BRMB, and this is Unlocked, Season 8, First Mover Status. Today's interview is one of the most poignant and laser-focused marketing interviews that we've ever published. It features Tom Goodwin of Mountain Laurel Chalets in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, who's now celebrating 50 years of making memories for guests. And to succeed for that long, a company like Tom's has developed one of the most holistic and comprehensive direct marketing campaigns that I've ever come across. Their brand is so limited edition and so focused that 20% of their bookings are from guests who have stayed 5 times or more. I'm not even going to try to summarize the myriad of direct booking wisdom that Tom shares here. You just have to hear it for yourself and apply it however you interpret it to your own journey. This episode is brought to you by Point Central, the leaders in smart home automation, and Breezeway, a property care and operations platform. As with every interview this season, I've kicked off by asking Tom, what does first mover status mean to you?
I don't think that I'm all that creative, and I never really have a new idea. I just listen to a lot of other ideas and try to meld them into my story. But when I think of where first mover works for me and what it means for me is having a real sense of understanding the story in my own life. What are the previous chapters? What have been my experiences and my relationships that has shaped who I am today and has shaped my company? And being very in tune and understanding those stories, and then looking and seeing and observing the events around me, the relationships, the circumstances, the opportunities in front of me, and always thinking, how does this play out into my story, and what is the next chapter? So for me, a first mover doesn't necessarily have to have original ideas, but they have to have their ideas that work with their personal story and their business story, and being willing to take the risk to step out and do something that's in line with their values and their story, and be willing to begin to write that next chapter, not knowing how that chapter is going to end.
How do you think that the role of sharing that story, saying it out loud, repeating it almost like a comedian might with a joke in order to really perfect it, how much do you think actually projecting it outwards adds to understanding it?
Well, I think people love stories since the beginning of time. Stories have shaped our culture, our history, and our lives. And I think people love talking about themselves. And so when you ask them about their stories or their life experiences, they love telling it. And you're most captivated by them when they tell it in a compelling way that revolves around that story. So for me, I understand my story more deeply as people are gracious enough to listen and to show interest in my story and our business story. But as we have opportunities to always tell about our business and the story of our business, I think it solidifies in our soul and then the deepest part of us, the deeper whys of why we're in business, why we're doing what we're doing, how do we live out those values and really write that next story. So I love engaging with other people and hearing their stories personally and their business as well, because I think they're all deeply intertwined. But as we communicate that story, as we talk to others, it helps us believe more in the next chapter, and also believing that next chapter is not there by mistake. It's shaped and formed by the previous chapters that have been written.
In a recent interview this season with Paul Waldschmidt of OwnerRez, he talks about this technique that he uses of sharing something publicly with his customers, some commitment, and using that almost as a way of forcing himself to adhere to it. Like there's no way out now. If you put it out into the universe, you can't go back on it. There is something about explaining who you are and crafting that narrative. I think that works in a similar way. Would you agree?
I completely agree. And it takes a bit of faith in that risk of going public with your ideas and your dreams and the chapter that you're writing. But as you go public and as you share that with someone else, it gives you a sense of accountability and think, okay, now how am I going to make this happen? how am I going to move forward with this project?
It's a little bit like fake it till you make it.
A little bit. You don't want to have the a total sense of faking it that is not genuine. I think people can look through that genuine, but hey, if it's not shaped and it's not solidified yet, eventually, as you talk more about it and you dream more about it, it will come into fruition.
And you mentioned these values. I think values are a really often overlooked element of a business model, especially in our space where a lot of people just kind of fall into it accidentally. And I know you're big on values. What was that moment in which you realized you needed to etch them into stone?
Well, our company, I'm a second generation leader in the company and owner. My in laws started the company in 1972 and had established quite a reputation and also a DNA of who they were, what Mountain Laurel Chalets was, and how distinct they were in the Gatlinburg Smoky Mountains area. And in 2012, when the family asked me to begin giving leadership to the company, we began to just ask people questions. We surveyed well over 1,000 former guests, current guests, lost guests, all of our owners, and our employees. Who do you think Mountain Laurel is? And from those interviews, a qualitative and quantitative stack, we really surfaced what was already there, what was true in the DNA. And we gave words to those values. And in giving words to those values and titles to them, it allows people to have bookmarks and to say, how am I doing with this core value? And identifies how successful am I being? Am I being true to those values? So, really, in 2012, when the business was 40 years old, it was living by core values, but they weren't identified. So all we did was put words to what was already true in the organization.
And then I'm guessing you have instances on a regular basis in which you revert back. Can you give us an example of when you hold up the values and you say, that's why what you just did was great, or maybe that's why what you just did can be thought of in a new way?
Yes. One was we had a guest coming to stay with us that was a second time guest, and they had come previous year. And in the course of the year after they stayed with us, they found out that the mother of the family was diagnosed with ALS. And they called to book another reservation basically for her last trip to the Smoky Mountains. And Pam, one of our front desk workers, guest service workers, let me know that we were making arrangements for them to have hospice come in for a bed setup. They were in a wonderful 1 level, 5 bedroom, accessible home with an incredible view of the mountains. And we wanted to do something extra special. And Pam wanted to as well. So she brought it to our attention. And I said, you're embodying all three of our core values. And if it might be helpful to tell you what our core values are, the first one is that we believe that family matters. We believe in exceeding expectations, and we believe we're generous stewards. So we want to love well, we want to go beyond, and we want to give back. And in that circumstance, we were able to love the Holloman family well. We were able to go beyond to make sure they had all the accommodations that they had. And interestingly, we were able to give back through engaging with them during their stay, brought them one of our stuffed teddy bears. And Tammy was so excited, and through her monitor was able to communicate, I really wanted to see a bear on this stay, and I haven't seen one, but you brought me a bear. She left, and their family left, and they continued to communicate with me. And they said Tammy has had her bear with her 24/7. And so we decided that next month, the month of December, we would promote and sell bears and give all the proceeds to their favorite charity, Team Gleason, which is an ALS support foundation. And so we were able to not only give all the proceeds from the bears, but all of our giving proceeds, 10% of our profits for the month of December. And we continue to give those profits to Team Gleason. And so Pam identified an opportunity to love this family well, believing that family matters, to exceed expectations, to go beyond. And then in the course of that, we were able to do something to give back and believe that we're generous stewards.
I love how such a beautiful example, but it is also is a perfect example of how that serves as a roadmap for making a team member's own decisions, not necessarily following a step-by-step playbook, but rather interpreting it in a way that she felt would be most meaningful. And I think that's really what makes vacation rentals so special. I want to move into two specific campaigns that that I think are most interesting. The first one doesn't exist yet, or at least it may have since the last time we talked.
It will now that it will go public, so I'll have to do it, Matt. So thank you for allowing me to take that risk.
We've just used the trick. This one I learned from you recently in Chicago when I saw you, and it's called Hometown Heroes. And I'd like for a high level overview, and then I'd like to dive into what the consequences, the positive consequences will be.
Great. Well, as we think about, we believe that family matters. Every family comes from a hometown. Our guests and our niche of our guests are salt of the earth hometown people, and so we wanted to have an opportunity to engage our guests, those that come to our company, to ask them who is their hometown hero, the unsung hero, the unpublished, the one that doesn't get the trophies or the accolades, but the person who is seeking to bring good to other people, the marginalized, the 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 forgotten, the overlooked. So you think of course, first responders and all that they do, and it could be someone as simple as volunteering their hours to help special needs children and not getting any recognition for it. If we wanted to hear those tender, meaningful stories that resonate with our heart and with our guest hearts, but we wanted those stories to come from our guests. So we asked them to nominate a hometown hero from their home. And that hometown hero needs to reflect being a hero based on three core values, which are we believe that family matters, we believe in exceeding expectations, and we believe we're generous stewards. So there our values show up again. And I think those values are unique to us, but they're also very applicable to other people's lives. It brings lift and meaning and purpose to people's lives. So we came up with this idea. Really, I wasn't the originator of this idea. A team was, and my daughter initiated this conversation because it started with, what do we do with our large homes that are empty Sunday through Thursday? And, there's church groups, there's business groups, there's retreats and so forth. We can market those as well. And we've done that. Most of these large homes are completely booked on weekends. But what can we do that would engage people that could come and stay the weekday? And so we tossed around a lot of ideas, and we thought, well, we're generous stewards. We want to give back. So what would it hurt us if we gave away these midweek stays from time to time to a hometown hero and allow for our guests to nominate that hometown hero? So we launched that program at the beginning of April. We have received a couple dozen, 24 nominations, 500-word essays of why they think their hometown hero reflects our core values and why they should be considered to receive this 3-night stay. Now that it's public, and now that I'm in the process of formulating what it's going to be, we are working with other local businesses to provide meals, entertainment, recreation, and different things to make their entire 3-day stay completely free, and including a lot of things that hometown hero would enjoy and would enjoy his family to experience.
So you mentioned this concept in our roundtable session there in Chicago. And if I'm not mistaken, someone came up to you and hugged you because the mere idea alone is such a beautiful embodiment of what vacation rentals can mean to their local communities, what vacation rental stewards can do for people's lives, both on vacation and beyond. And I have absolutely no doubt that this becomes something. I think, Tom, you used the phrase that you had stumbled on holy ground. And I completely agree that this seems like one of those little permutations that is really might be interesting for any of our listeners to consider. So I'm guessing you're open to hearing from them and some collaboration if they're interested.
Yes, we're trying to create a playbook as we go, as we've have made this public and share the story more. So, anyone that has ideas that can collaborate with us, we would love for our industry to reflect a generous giving back and celebrating people that often aren't celebrated, but really are the heroes. And so I think no better way to do that than to host them and to celebrate them. I launched this at our owners meeting. We had a dinner with our owners last Friday and already had owners come up to me and saying, we want our home to be available for that to celebrate these heroes as well.
It's just such a great example of everybody winning and leading by example with the right thing or with the um, passionate decision, um, being good for business too. And the other program that I think is another perfect example of that is your Family First program. This is not new. This has been going on now for, I think, what, 10 years almost?
Just about 10 years, we were looking at a way to recognize our repeat guests. And our business being 50 years old, we have not only repeat guests, but three and fourth generation guests that have stayed with us dozens and dozens of times. And so we created a inner circle in a sense, Matt, of our vacation renters, and we call it Family First. And it is you receive membership to Family First by staying with us 5 times. And so I just ran some numbers last night from 2014, the last 8 years. 20% of all of our reservations have come from people that have stayed with us 5 or more times.
That is
And they're part of the Family
insane.
First.
That is absolutely unbelievable. Amazing.
Yeah, it's over 2,000 family units that have stayed with our business exclusively more than 5 times.
Wow. And so these folks who have stayed with you 5 times, what are the perks of becoming a Family First member?
Well, the perks aren't all that huge, but what they do get is a sense of belonging and community and recognition. Of course, every time they come, they get a free gift. And we have hats and Yeti mugs and local crafted pottery, T-shirts. So they get to choose one of those free gifts. And we have some guests that say, I have a drawer full of 20 Mountain Laurel Chalets T-shirts. So that prompts us and forces us to get other merch and other things that they would want. We've come up with a whole new line with our 50th anniversary camp mugs and journals and so forth. But they get a free gift when they check in. They get the benefit of just paying for one. Their reservation fee is only one night's rental. So if they're staying for a week, they're only committing money for one night, and they can book a year in advance. So we're not holding 50% of their deposit. Our Family First members, on a much greater scale, do not cancel, and they stay longer, and they enjoy having access to their money longer, and so they don't have to pay half their rent or their deposit. So it's just one night deposit. They also receive a free bundle of firewood if they have a wood burning fireplace for every night of their stay, and they get the title of being Family First. And literally, people say, "This is my fourth stay. I've got one more until my fifth stay." And so there's a sense of that inner circle, that belonging, that tribe, that they're a part of the Mountain Laurel Chalets family. And interestingly, our first core values that we believe that family matters. When we surveyed those 1,000 guests and all of our owners, former, past, and current guests, the one word that stood out to everyone is we feel like we're a part of a family. And that's something I inherited from my in-laws. They had established that. I'm standing on their shoulders. And we've continued to keep that core value, and our Family First program really gives people a sense of being more connected and a part of the Mountain Laurel Chalets program.
Can you talk about how you make the decision to allocate money, let's just call it marketing dollars, to repeat guests? Because these gifts and firewood and other stuff, they have a cost. Can you talk us through the decision-making process of reallocating money towards the repeat guests as opposed to that same money which could be used for a cold lead, a new guest?
Yes. I have been through the gamut on marketing budgets and evaluating return on investment. And our target audience is a what we call a graduated tourist. It's our repeat guest or a repeat visitor to Gatlinburg. That doesn't mean we ignore the first time guest, and there's a lot of them recently. But I would say over 90% of our marketing money goes towards the guest experience. And I am able to do that because of our brand recognition, our brand presence. 86% of our bookings are direct bookings. People come directly to our website. To let a secret out, and I can easily defend this, we spend no money on Google AdWords, none. I do all organic marketing, email marketing, relational marketing, Facebook connection, and repeat guests. Our occupancy it rivaled all the competition in the last 2 years, and we're seeing great numbers this year as well. So it took me a while to take that risk and move all majority of our marketing money to allowing it to serve our guests that are on site. So that's from a first-time guest to a repeat guest. So we also will really celebrate any special event or occasion that our guests have. Fifth birthday, 30th anniversary, family or business reunion, and we will add special gifts and surprise and delight in each one of their homes with cards and personalization. And so my objective is we've got such a great repeat business, we've got such great brand recognition that we only accelerate that through the marketing towards those that are coming. And that word of mouth has served us really well.
And I'm guessing there was a time years back when a much greater percentage of your bookings came through non-direct channels. Is that right?
No,
It's always been that way.
it's always been that way. So we were a little late to the internet game with my in-laws in the company. So early 2000s, we went fully online, started taking more credit cards than just American Express, and we were still receiving checks in the mail and so forth. So when we launched the website, we still had such a strong connection and uh, repeat guest experience that really we've only launched into OTAs aggressively in the last 8 years because we love our OTAs. We love the 15% that come from that primarily through Verbo because they're first time, and it's an opportunity for us to host them and to give them an unforgettable experience so they'll come back again.
And I don't think I've ever heard more clearly the focus on using an OTA to generate a new booking, but then using all the resources in your um, portfolio to foster a repeat stay and all the way up to 5, 6, however many times the guest stays. Um, are there any specific activities you find that helps to make that transition?
Well, we personalize the experience as much as we can, as much as our competitors promote the convenience of no guest check-in at the office. Our guests love to check in with us. We are very fortunate because you have to drive by our office to go by all of our properties, all but two. And so it's out of their convenience, and they receive a Southern hospitable Mountain Laurel Chalets greeting and concerns about.
What does that consist of?
Well, that consists of greeting them by name when they come in the door, welcoming them, having their packet ready, whether there's coffee in the lobby or lemonade or cookies or salted peanuts or whatever for them. There's just a sense of greeting and warmth that they experience, and I think that's just the hospitality. Our logo, our trademark logo, is we believe that your family is our company. And my mother-in-law, for every guest that would come through, she would make them feel like they were her personal company coming in. So when we were younger and we had company coming over, you had to clean up the house and put out the special silver and put placemats out and maybe name tags at the place settings because you were having company. Well, we treated every guest that was coming over like they were our company. And that's where the hospitality comes in, and that's where the care and the concern for the individual comes in.
So, in that sense, this is not something that can be accelerated with technology or necessarily scaled to infinity, is it?
I think technology can come alongside it. For example, my daughter, who's just graduated from college and is studying for her CPA, is working about 20 hours a week for us. She'll take the whole reservation list and she will send each guest a personalized video. We use one of the video apps and we send that guest a video with their name and her waving at them. And the screen behind her is the home that they're staying in. She greets them by name, lets them know about the house they're staying in, and however we can personalize and make their experience great.
What tool do you use for that?
We use BombBomb,
Nice. Love
and
BombBomb.
we've been thrilled with this. The response, the engagement for our new guests, they're surprised. They're like, "Wow, you said my name. This wasn't a generic video. It was in front of the house that I was in." We showed one of those examples at our owners meeting this last week, and one of the owners was there, and it was the background was her home, and she screamed out, "That's my home!" So it's as much we can personalize that as possible. We're moving into much more opportunity to text with our guests, obviously, through those opportunities and the digital guest guide. So we want to use technology, but we don't want to lose the hospitality and the heart and the human interaction that comes with that.
And so they're stopping into the office. That's necessary in order to get their packet, or they can go straight to the home?
It is not necessary. They can go straight to the home. If they check in after hours, they pick up their packet with information. It can be sent to them digitally. We use Point Central, so access to each of our homes is very easy and accessible. But we do love seeing our guests and having the opportunity to greet them, to have that human connection with them. And because 20% of our guests are 5-time or more repeat guests, they come in to see Cheryl or Pam or Kay or Corey or Tom or Marina, who does the laundry. So they have relationships with us and they enjoy coming in. We've done renovations on our office over COVID. They come in and they take pictures. They're so excited about the new things that they've seen. So that's unique to our company and our experience and our story to have such a strong repeat clientele. But they enjoy that, but we also realize our new clients and new guests that we would have coming might prefer not having that interaction. If that's the case, we still want to have that video interaction with them, the personalized texting, the card to greet them when they're in the house, and their special gift if they're celebrating something special.
And what are you using to text with them?
Well, we're using Rubaroo and for the digital guest guide and texting, and then we will also have another opportunity with Track as well as we're transitioning to using Track in August.
And are these automated or canned texts that go out, or are they manually written based on some set of circumstances?
No, we are just building out the Rubaroo platform. We have a general text that's going out, and then we're beginning the process of personalizing them. And so the most personalized thing we do is the BombBomb. And as we explore the texting options, we want to have. I am certainly not against just having generic information per house per booking because people like to have information. You can't over personalize everything and not allow them to get the details and the information that they need. So we're really building out the Rubaroo platform so that we can be more informative for our guests to allow them not to worry, be concerned, to avert complaints, to address concerns that they would have before they go unnoticed and then they leave and then they said no one engaged with me. So we want to be able to use technology more effectively. And I would say we're really great on the hospitable experience. And because of my experience at VRMA and engaging with you and others like Terry White, we're really growing in our tech stack to complement our hospitality and our personal connection.
That's a beautiful statement right there. Pumping my fists in the air right now. You make me proud. And I do think it's important to remind folks that you don't have to go all or nothing. It's not one or the other with this kind of tech-enabled hospitality. Knowing that there is a tool like Rubaroo that could allow you, if you so chose, to send out an automated text message the following morning asking how the individual slept. That is an option for you, just as the option to manually send out a text message using no tool might be. The same goes for a lot of these pieces, like BombBomb, for instance. You could have an evergreen style video or digital handshake in which you say, "Hello, my name's Matt. I'll be your host. I'm standing here at our office. You'll pass by us on the way." And that would be an evergreen use of the digital handshake that wouldn't necessarily take up time every single booking. Recognizing there's a continuum there, I think, is a big breakthrough.
Yeah, I think that, we have a lot to learn in technology, but we don't want to lose our story and what is the chapter we're writing and not just copycat someone else. So, in the same way as we're thinking about being a first mover, we wouldn't be first movers with technology, but we could be first movers with technology as it relates to our story and our business.
A neat way, I think, to look at where to use technology in a vacation rental company is by starting with pain points. And I reference again this interview with Paul from Onerez a couple episodes back, in which he talks about their growth as a software company based not on scaling things, but on alleviating pains. And if you're using technology to alleviate a pain in your company, that's almost universally a good thing. But if you're using technology to solve some problem that wasn't even there, maybe it's a time to think twice.
Yeah, I always think that we need to come up with solutions for problems that already exist, and there's plenty of those, not to anticipate other ones. Um, and I think a pain would be is the fear that guests have of like even the pain point of making a reservation, of sorting through the 5,000 different cabin options in Gatlinburg. Am I getting the best deal? Am I being ripped off? Is this in the best locations? All those concerns that people have. So, to alleviate that pain, you have to allow them to come to your website and feel a sense of relief. My questions are being answered. I can easily make this reservation. I don't have to hop through a bunch of hoops. And we can use that same mentality from the very beginning of the marketing phase all the way until their departure from us.
Today's ad intermission begins with a dinner party. I wanted to take a second to address this pain point logic by presenting two of the sponsors for today's podcast who were actually mentioned at a dinner party last night that I attended with Adam and Beth Witt and the team from Lilimar Properties here in St. Simons Island, Georgia. They were talking about companies that are game changers simply because of the pain points that they were solving. First was Breezeway, and the pain point that was being solved was a communication gap within their team. You can think of it almost like the data rate of an internet connection. If your data rate is fast, in other words, if information flows freely and easily and the whole team is in sync, they can accomplish volumes more work than if that communication flow has holes in it. Breezeway solves this pain point, and they use it for maintenance, housekeeping, and even to communicate with guests. The quote, I think, was, "Breezeway eliminates all our dropped balls," which, when it comes to meeting the high expectations of guests these days, is about the most no-brainer tool that a vacation rental professional could ask for. Head over to breezeway.io/VRMB, where you can learn more, sign up for a free demo, and if you decide to move forward like so many of our listeners already have, they will waive the implementation fee of $1,000. The second tool that the team from Lilimar talked about was Point Central, and the pain point that it solves is having to physically go to a property, send team members that they don't even really have at their disposal when inconvenient or not even possible. Point Central, with their smart locks and smart thermostats avoids rekeying, that pain of having copies of your keys floating around a neighborhood, and electric consumption that's not necessary when guests are not in town. The pain point that Breezeway also solves is emergencies. With preventative water leak detectors and HVAC analytics, Adam was saying he could literally, from the seat next to me, solve most guests' problems from the panel of his smartphone. When he opens a door for a guest, they say, "Whoa, that was like magic." To give Point Central a try, head over to pointcentral.com/VRMB. These are two tools that were unprompted, uncued, and also happen to be the sponsors of today's podcast simply because they solve pain points. They are not technologies that are inventing new problems. They are solving things and making your life easier. Now let's get back to our show. I would like to talk about something that you can't plan for, something that is entirely outside of your control, no matter how beautifully clear your values may be. And that is adversity striking. And in your case, you had the fire that took place 6 years ago. I'm curious, in hindsight, what would you say is the playbook when some kind of tragedy strikes for a vacation rental professional, at least that you found yourself in?
Well, it's interesting. I think I might go back to the very beginning of this conversation. The playbook is being grounded in your story, who you are, and what you do as a company. And when we experienced the fires in November of 2016, in a matter of hours, we lost 46 homes, which represented 50% of our inventory. It took 4 days before we realized that our office wasn't burned down, our family home wasn't burnt down, and to discover which homes were remaining. And in the course of that time and in crisis, your true colors show through, and you can't fabricate that. You can't will them into existence. They are what they are. And I'm fortunate that our DNA of family matters, exceeding expectations, and giving back were our natural default mode. And so in the course of those fires, and even though we lost 50% of our business, we didn't know when the city would open up again, if Gatlinburg would still be a viable vacation option. Over 2,000 buildings were destroyed in that incredible wildfire. The largest concentration of those buildings was in our niche area. So that was devastating to us. And so after I got over the devastation, I reached down and looked back to the story that has been written well before I even came on the scene with our company, and hunkered down and looked for opportunities to give back, to care for our owners, to care for the community. Our office was spared. The 14 acres around our office was completely destroyed except for one building. The fire came right up to the back of our office, burned out the railroad ties, but it didn't touch the pampas grass that was dried out in November that was 6 feet tall. It melted the PVC pipes at the back of our office, but the rest of our office remained untouched. In fact, we had just put out our Christmas decorations in our nativity and had spread out 2 bales of dry straw in the front yard. And when we left that afternoon, I'm like, let's put the sprinkler on the front. Not knowing there was a fire, it was just very smoky. And this fire happened very quickly. But our office was spared. And I think it was spared for a reason, so we could write this next chapter and we could be there for the first responders. The government sent in a lot of support and services. We worked with local churches and had meals, 3 meals a day, available to everyone going up and down the mountain, because our office is right in the pathway of going up to the whole Chalet Village area. So we had more packed sandwiches, subs, chips, fruit, water, working bathrooms, and we just opened up a place that we could give back to the community. And so I think what you need to do in adversity is you can't plan for adversity. You got to plan for it now, and you got to live according to your core values, live those out, and dig deep into what really matters and why you're here, what your purpose is, and then how you can give back. And so we just did what we do as a company, what our family does, and what we've been doing for 50 years. And it really changed the entire trajectory of our brand, of our following, our brand loyalty. Uh, all of those core values led us to our business decisions to give 100% refunds without any questions asked. We didn't demand to hold those funds for future reservations of homes that were burned down. We didn't relocate them to other auxiliary sites because we didn't have them. We just had our local family-owned business, and we also, employed trust accounting, so we had not spent any of those upcoming funds. All those reservations were in escrow. So to us, we were depending on those for future growth and future business, but we hadn't spent the money. We hadn't touched it. The right thing to do, to give back, to exceed expectations, and to treat people like family, was to give them their money back and help them um, help us figure out and help them figure out what their next steps would be for their vacation in a home that was no longer existed. We kind of went a little beyond and helped all of our owners. 46 homes were lost that were on our program. And these were multi-generation families and that had been with us for so long, they had no idea how to excavate, what the requirements were. We stayed on top of all those things, hired an exclusive excavation company. We handled all their excavations. We paid for them. We received income through our account, and they paid us back. But we helped them work through their insurance claims. For 2 years, I became an expert in complete loss, fire loss with insurance. So consulted with all of our owners to help them get back on track. And we did that, obviously, for a business perspective because we wanted those owners to come back, but also because it was the right thing to do. We had treated those owners like family, and we wanted to exceed their expectations, and we wanted to be generous stewards continually with them. And I think what happened in Gatlinburg, and even as our office and our company is a microcosm of that, is that the loyalty and the compassion that people felt for our community went through the roof. People wanted us to succeed. We were the small guy, the small town, the small mountain town, and we were that small family-owned business in that small mountain town that people had grown to love. And so the brand loyalty, the repeat guests only began to increase. Our family first group began to multiply more. And that's when adversity comes, you come together, and it draws you together in that common bond of family and business and community. So I look back and I think I wish the fires didn't happen, but that was a part of the story. That was a part of the next chapter. And you take what is brought your way and you think, how can I write a better story and tell a better story? And that only comes from really being grounded in understanding what your core values are and what your purpose and meaning is, in a sense.
And it sounds like, going back to the beginning of our conversation, also practicing communicating it to people. And I think the fire was kind of the beginning of your Facebook following, for lack of a better word, in which people saw um, raw and real responses to this thing that everybody was concerned about, everybody's livelihoods being affected.
Yeah, it was where people were going for news. How can I find out what's happening in Gatlinburg? And so I utilized FaceTime or Facebook Live during that time, pretty much on a daily basis, giving them updates. We would video chat with our owners. We would drive by their homes, confirmed if they were lost or they made it through the fires. Um, in the course of that as well, because we were showing up and we were serving our community, every major news network did a live interview with us. The Weather Channel, Dolly Parton featured us on her fundraising program because we were actually helping serve in the community. So that story was able to be broadcast a little bit broader than our Facebook audience, but our Facebook audience really hunkered down and experienced the fires with us as well. We look back at the comments and the engagement with our guests. with great appreciation for their loyalty to us, their care and concern for our safety, for our well-being as a company. And it really did solidify our relationship, especially with our what we call raving fans, our loyal fans, those that show up every week for our Facebook Lives and engage with us. And most of those people are part of our Family First program as well.
And let's talk about your use of it today, because it's not necessarily sharing current events or updates on the weather. It's engaging with this group of people who adores you guys. Um, what are some of the ways in which you use the Facebook Live community today?
Well, usually once a week or every other week, depending on rhythm and schedule and home availability. I will do an 8 p.m., about an 8 p.m. Facebook Live. I'll show up in one of our homes, give a tour of that home, ask compelling questions where they're engaging with us on the comments, whether what's your hometown, where are you riding or where are you checking in from, when's the last time you were in Gatlinburg? When's the next time you're coming to Gatlinburg? What's your favorite restaurant in Gatlinburg? So just to engage them in the conversation. Then we'll do a tour of the home, promoting that owner's home and letting people know about its availability. We'll share about local events. We're sharing a lot this year about our 50th anniversary. So every week we're doing a 50th anniversary giveaway. We've done home giveaways, t-shirt giveaways, mug giveaways. It almost really doesn't matter what you're giving away. People like to win. People like to be included, and we love to celebrate them as well. But we ask them to engage with us through the comments, through sharing, through liking, for a chance to win the coveted camping mug of the week, or the 2-day stay, which we'll culminate with some of those. But we have a really great involvement, and I'll go on the Facebook Live at 8 p.m. and we kind of announce it sometimes ahead of time so people are aware. But there are regulars that show up every single week. They're alerted and they follow us. And Tammy Joe from Kokomo, or Natalie Thompson from Tipton, Indiana, or Gary Lipsy from Palm Harbor, Florida. All these are regulars, that are always showing up, and we love them because they're raving fans. They tell all their friends about their experience with Mount Laurel, but most importantly, they feel like they're a part of the community. They feel like they're a part of the Mount Laurel Chalets family.
And was that something that you needed to get comfortable with or practice over time to get good at, or is that something you were naturally good at?
It's I've never met a microphone I didn't enjoy or wasn't a friend of. So it's I'm fortunate that I have no problem and no shame in my life of whatever I might look like that night and doing the Facebook Live. Though people like to see the view and they like to see the house. There was one guest this last Christmas. My daughter and I were at the office, and the home that they were in was actually Trillium Lodge, the same home that Tammy Holloman had her last visit at. Fabulous view of the mountains, and it wasn't decorated yet for Christmas, and it was mid-December. Well, it wasn't decorated because it was back to back to back to back. We could never get in. So the guests called. They were Family First guests, and they said, "We're really disappointed there's not Christmas." And Pam at the front desk said, "Well, we'll come up if you don't mind us coming and decorating while you're there." "Oh, no problem, no problem." So my daughter Anna and I went up to the house, knocked on the door, 11 in the morning, and the woman opened the door. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, it's Tom from Facebook Live. I wasn't prepared for this." And she said, "Can I get a photo with you?" And my daughter Anna's like, "Oh no, Dad's head is just exploding. This is what he loves." But if you're going to be famous somewhere, I'm famous with our Family First guests in the thinking about their hometowns that are staying with us. But we realize that people love a connection. They love a community. They love to be involved. They like to be identified with a tribe. And we wanted to create that, and Facebook has allowed us to do that in an incredible way.
And to be and being authentic is also key. I think you just do that naturally. Another episode this season, Brittany Blackman, she used video and Facebook Live in a similar way to engage with her community in the middle of the pandemic. She then used it to launch her own company, and she too has the genuine spirit. And I think if anybody is questioning whether or not they are comfortable on camera, know that most people are not comfortable, but that so long as you are speaking passionately or authentically about things that interest you, it conveys. And I'm curious, Tom, you've mentioned now a couple times about this incredible 50-year um, anniversary. First of all, what are you doing to celebrate this apart from giving away mugs?
Well, we actually are rolling out. You're going to force me to make some stuff public, and I'm actually going to follow through on it now. But in the beginning, July 1st is the date we received our first reservation in 1972. And it was the little apartment beneath my wife's bedroom in her family home because the Gatlinburg Inn was sold out. The guest had no idea knowing it was sold out. So Wilma Maples, the owner of the Gatlinburg Inn, called Dot and Ralph Egley, my in-laws, and said, "Do you have any room?" And they began to realize, I think we can rent out this apartment. So they were, bed and breakfast before there was ever a bed and breakfast. And so July 1st, 2022, we are going to be celebrating that entire month, actually June and July, with a lot of things for our guests, some significant giveaways. We're going to be marketing some of the homes at the original prices. That means $24 a night.
That's
And
amazing.
so that's amazing. And we've, when I took over with the family business in 2012, we rebranded. I hired a branding firm in Atlanta. They did an excellent job. Two of the designers that worked on that project, I rehired them to do a refresh on our brand. So we have a lot of new branding and a lot of new advertising. We're platinum sponsors with the Chamber of Commerce and the Visit Gatlinburg website just to promote the 50th anniversary. And I think the Hometown Heroes will play a big part in that as well.
The rebranding idea is such a great one for anyone who's been operating for more than 5 or 10 years. The brand is something that tends to just kind of collect dust and you assume that people get it. But a little freshen up, a little rebrand with a professional, sounds like this group that you experienced out of Atlanta was a great one. That was an investment that was very worthwhile, I take it.
Absolutely. 10 years ago, when I made the initial investment, I was a little shocked at the amount. I have earned all of that back and more in light of the brand, the visual, the story. All the elements are consistent with our core values and who we are as a company, and it makes telling the story so much more beautiful, consistent, and easy. And you're right, it does gain some dust on the shelf. So we shook it out, and for the 10 years, we remained true to a lot of our core design. Absolutely, the core design hasn't changed too much, but we've added some extra elements that freshen that up as well and bring it up from 10 years. So it's amazing how much design and colors and texture change in the course of 4 years. You really, after 10 years, we really needed to freshen it up to make it look even more current.
And I think there's one other element of your 50-year celebration. And for listeners, I think it's worth viewing these kinds of milestones, even if it's your 1 year anniversary or your 5 year or your 10 year or your 20 year, celebrating the milestones with the people who contributed to the success is a fun way to recognize your progress and promote your company and give back. This element of your 50th celebration that you didn't mention is a seminar for new self-managing owners who are learning the ropes. And can you walk us through that? Because on paper, I think most property managers would say, "What?"
Yes, this began with a pain point. So we wanted to provide a solution to a pain. And the pain was new out of town investors that got on the train and think that owning a vacation rental home is a sexy thing to do and how much fun and how easy it's going to be. And then they join the local Facebook cabin owners group and begin asking questions that really reflect their need to understand, have a basic onboarding and education of simple principles like where's the grocery store? What do I do with fire pits? How often does pest control come by? Does anyone know a good cleaner? So they were just trying to running their some were running their personal businesses not knowing what to do. And so my thought was, if someone comes to our community, to Gatlinburg, and has a bad experience because they have a well-intentioned owner that's uninformed or doesn't know how to serve their guest, it reflects poorly on all of us. And so that guest, maybe a first timer, might think, I'm never coming back to Gatlinburg again because the owner I interacted with didn't know what they were doing.
Or I'm never staying in a vacation rental again, period. That
Yes.
sucked.
So we worked through the HOA, the Chalet Village Homeowners Association. Their Facebook group, their annual meeting was this last weekend. I also worked through some of the other Facebook groups in the Smokies and invited people to come hear from the experts. You know, Kay King has been with us for 33 years. She was born and raised in Gatlinburg. Corey Hawks is my general manager. He's been with us for 18 years, 25 years in the industry. I've had a vacation home in Gatlinburg with my wife for 30 years and have been running the business for 10. So we have well over 70 plus years of expert experience. So we thought we'll have a panel and answer all of those questions. So we sent out invitations, Facebook ads, and we tried to promote that as much as possible and had people sign up, attend live. We had some of our current owners come to add to the panel and to add their feedback. But this for us helps the industry, but it also helps us introduce ourselves to some of these new do-it-yourselfers. And we want to be known as the experts in the area. And we also want to be known as going above and beyond and giving back. And so it's consistent with our values, and it didn't hurt us to spend 2 hours to share our best practices and to host people with a meal and in our office to have that interaction with them. And now we're making that hour and a half long seminar available through a recording. So it's really no different than all the podcasts that I listen to driving around every week, the experts that are out there sharing their advice, but it personalized it and brought it closer to home and allowed us to meet some of those first-time homeowners that are trying to do it themselves.
Tom, final question. What do you want your legacy to be?
That's a great question, Matt. And that's what matters the most to me. I'm a second-generation owner. I married my wife 30 years ago next week, and I married into one of the most incredible families. My mother and father-in-law, Dot and Ralph Egley, would be known as the matriarch and patriarch of Gatlinburg. They served and loved the community. They gave back. They were incredibly generous to the National Park, to the Boys and Girls Club, to Boy Scouts, to Rotary, to their church, to the entire community. And I rest on their shoulders. I stand on their shoulders. Dot passed away in 2013 and Ralph in 2016. And my legacy, first and foremost in this business, is to continue on championing their core values, which are really mine as well, and our whole families. When I think of that legacy, I think of my 5 daughters and their passion for this industry, their passion for our business, for our story. And whether or not they continue that legacy, that's not of the concern, but I want them to be proud of the business that we're running now, that it reflects more than just work and business and money and profit, but it reflects changed lives, where people like Tammy Holloman can come with hospice care and enjoy her last time visit with her family. And those memories last long beyond for her son, Christopher, who's now 16 and learning to drive, and her husband, who's just bought a boat and is remembering all the wonderful things about Tammy. Legacies like that, it happens one story at a time, one chapter at a time. And I don't know what the next chapter is going to be, but I certainly want to be involved in it. And I want really not only to my faith to be a part of that, my core values and my family, but also the community of Gatlinburg.
What can you strive for? What's your legacy as a friend, family member, small business owner, a community member? I wanted to repeat Tom and Mountain Laurel Chalets' values one more time, just for emphasis. We believe family matters. We believe in exceeding expectations. We believe we are generous stewards. Maybe your company's values are quite similar to these. Maybe they're completely different. But hopefully, they're articulated simply and beautifully for everybody on your team, everybody who visits your destination, who stays in one of your homes, to understand and resonate with. When internalized, these values become your company's culture. These are the phrases that, when repeated often, they act like filters that help you make both easy and hard decisions. They serve almost like a compass that keeps your business moving in a meaningful direction, maybe after you're gone. But taking a risk to double down on this direction, your story is the one that you get to write, and that is maybe the single biggest breakthrough for a limited edition vacation rental company, because it serves as your moat, your defense from competition, this huge gap that allows you to operate on your terms without worrying about any other companies taking your piece of the pie. If you resonated with this interview, consider joining Tom and myself and over 1,000 Toms in VRMB's private community forum, where we are actively building one-of-a-kind brands, and we're doing it together. Plenty of guests think Mountain Laurel Chalets is the best vacation rental company in Tennessee. But I believe Tom and other operators who think similarly, like you, are actually some of the greatest hospitality professionals of our time.